from upstairs. What we're doing, you're all in a Getting Connected session, and you're probably wondering what it's all about because everybody else was wondering what it was about. What we're trying to do is we're going to take the tools off the table and take the platforms off the table and not actually look at anything that we've got in the college or anything that we're using. What we're looking at is how do you get connected with your students that are working online to do self-directed learning. And what we're going to be doing is looking at how that happens, but where has all that directive come from? And it's actually come from the FELTAG recommendations, which you heard Ian mention in his speech this morning. And the FELTAG, if you don't know who they are, is the Further Education Learning Technology Action Group, and it's a government initiative. So they have actually said that we, as learning providers, have to provide certain content online that students can work their way through. What does that really mean? And I think that's the confusing part, because I think we've all heard this 10%, 20%, 50% for the coming years that we have to have learning online. In the past, when we all started using VLEs and things like this, and everybody says, oh, you've got to have some content online, you thought, well, actually, I use this document and I hand it out to them. What I'm going to do is now put that handout online, and they can read it online. I do a PowerPoint presentation in class. What I'm going to now do is take that PowerPoint presentation and put it online, and they've got online content. That actually isn't online learning. Online learning is somewhere where the students can actually work their way through some materials, test their knowledge and understanding, communicate with somebody, either their peers or with you, and actually work their way through a little unit, and at the end of it they can assess whether they've actually learnt or not. So it's basically like taking your classroom session, putting it online, but how do you do that to keep that student engaged in that? Because when we're in class, we've all got a way of delivering, haven't we? We can all stand here and we can do a little speech and stuff like this, and we engage the students, we can tell that they're learning, we can tell that they're engaged, and then we move on to the next point. What you've got to now start thinking about is, if that session is put online, how does that student stay engaged? How are we going to communicate with them? How do we know that they're on track? How are we going to present the materials to them so that they stay motivated? How do they progress? And how do we assess them? So we're going to look at all that. But before we do that, what is FELTAG? This is what the recommendation is, and it's just a quote from the document. It's a long document. If you want to read it, we can forward it to you. But it's basically just saying to us that we are not expecting providers to convert 10% of learning delivery. And that's basically not saying, here's my handout, here it's online, here's my PowerPoint, here it's online. It's saying rather we are encouraging providers to establish a strategy to determine where the adoption of a greater blend of delivery and assessment takes place. So what we're looking at really is, we're not saying your content has got to be online and delivered to the students. It's how do you create a blended environment that supports teaching, learning and assessment in an effective way. So, for example, you may at the moment be teaching and you say, every day I come in, I get my students, I set a question, we have a handout and we do an assessment. If that's the case, how much of that learning, if you have them for 60 guided learning hours, 30 you have face-to-face contact, you could say 20 hours is now going to go online, but 10 hours I'm going to have in the classroom with them. But 20 is self-directed and they've got to work their way through it. The 10 hours is the reinforcing, the making sure they're understanding, a workshop session, so anything like that. So it's changing the way that you're designing your curriculum for delivery and actually putting it online and working that way. And they've got to work through a tutorial, they've got to work through a unit or a part of a unit or something and achieve something on their own. With some sort of methodology of how we're going to do it, on which device, and every single, we'll have a look at that in a minute. It says 10%, what we're saying is about 20%, because then we might just get the 10%, but it's moving further in the next few years to say almost 50%. Has anybody got a question on that?
Yeah, I have. Would something like facility like Padlet, would that work in a way that the students can double click, they can upload, it can act as a forum, it's obviously web based, but my question would be more so the feedback you provide, any questions the students have got, would that be via email, would that have to be again based on any sort of cyber forum that you operate on. And when we say about motivation, if they're at midnight, they're going through and perhaps just limping over the finishing line, how do you, without seeing them in the classroom environment, how do you know what they're and how well they're contributing?
They'll always be in the classroom because it's a blended environment. It's not
okay.
just
So
all
it's not
completely
really
online.
a home,
Yeah,
right,
I
okay.
mean, really none of us would learn that way if it was we don't need to come to college at all. So it's always going to be a blended environment that you're going to be involved in. But the learning management systems do give activity reports as well and show you how long people were engaged and how long they actually did integrate with the materials, not just how long did they log on and say they were online. It's moved forward from that, from what reports we can get. And the thing that we're going to be looking at in the session is, you know, like this, when the student's online and it's at 12 o'clock at night and they're stuck, where is the communication? Where are they going to go for help and support? So these are the things that we want you to start thinking about, because learning online is totally different to learning in the classroom. It's like you can ask a question out here and I can answer you and we can get a bit of feedback going. But if you're sitting at home and you know it's like, we've all done it, we've all gone online and we've all tried to do something, work our way through it, and then you think, I'm stuck. What do I do now? Who do I contact now? And you either give up or you go deeper and deeper and deeper into Google and keep searching and searching and searching, and then get totally confused. And if you're anything like me, you get distracted completely and you start going down a different tack. Karen knows what I'm like. But you end up going and doing so many other little things and go, oh, I haven't actually done what I wanted to do because Google's distracted me, or now the search has distracted me. And that's where we've got to look at how can we stay focused as well. So we're going to have a look at that just a little bit, just to give you some ideas as well. What we've done is, illustrates what the FELTAG recommendation is, because I think a lot of people are hearing FELTAG and 10% and not really knowing what it really means. This is just a tiny little video, about 2 minutes if that. That kind of puts it a little bit more into perspective. I mean, it is something that now is becoming so important, and we've got to have these kind of learning materials online. And at the moment we do all engage in different things, but what we have done from an ILT point of view is we've tried to identify, well, okay, if we're going to be putting content online, we're not just putting the Word document or the PowerPoint presentation or a little video, because obviously we're going to keep the students engaged and they've got to learn something at the end of this. So when you're looking at your online content, what you've got to look at is the materials. What materials do you currently use in your classroom, and what actually, or how are you going to convert these materials to put online to keep that student engaged? How do you support the student, and how do you communicate with the student? In the classroom, we can have the questions and the going backwards and forwards, and the students know each other as a group in the classroom face to face. How online are you going to provide that communication and that support? And the other thing is, how do you assess them and give them feedback? So when you're looking at that, currently we're all doing teaching and learning with all those concepts inside it, how do we convert that to online? And we've had a look, and the way that we looked at it was we looked at MOOCs. I think you've all heard of MOOCs, the massive open online courses that are already out there. They are all out there. There's loads of them, and they're free and they're available and they've all been put together. And what happened with the MOOCs, it started off in America, and it was basically, they were saying, if you've got a lecturer and you've got capacity to have 60 students within your lecture theatre, or up to 100 students in your lecture theatre, you're such a talented person, you've got all this knowledge, and then you're just telling it to 100 people. Why are you limiting it to just that amount? Let's actually increase it and give it to the whole world. So it's some of the professors from universities that have actually put MOOCs together, and they're short courses, and they basically are available to anybody for free. And one of the reasons that we looked at them, Karen, myself and Andy actually, who's gone to another training session, but is to actually see how they're laid out. What is it that the MOOCs are doing to keep the students engaged and motivated and to complete the courses? What's the functionality they're using? What's the medium of delivery that they're using, and how is it all laid out on them? And we had a look at them, and it's quite interesting because one of the things, Karen actually went on a course that was at the Oxford University on how to lay out courses for online delivery. And what they're doing is they're saying, okay, if you're a student on this course, when you come to the classroom, you always have like an induction activity, you know, just to introduce all the students to each other, a little brainstorm or icebreaker or something like that. When you're online and you're saying you're going to learn these materials, what's going to be the starting point? And a lot of people are actually doing introduce yourself or say hello, and it's a little discussion forum. Everybody goes in and adds something, and everybody then in the group is kind of introducing themselves to the other people in the group. That starts it all off. When you're actually learning something, how long do you concentrate for? So if you're doing a video, there's no point if I could stand here and say, well, I've got to train you for an hour and a half, I'll stand and talk to you for an hour and a half, and you'll all look at me and probably all switch off after about 20 minutes, if you last 20 minutes. But when you're online, it's even shorter, because actually when you're online, there's other distractions online as well. So you've got to think it's got to be short little stages that you deliver your materials in. But when you deliver something online and you do a video, do you put the handout next to it? Do you do a voiceover on the video, so it's not just the video that the person's, you know, they see in text, but they're hearing it as well. And these are the kind of things that you need to start thinking about when you're communicating with your students and you're creating a blended environment. So you're going to have them in class, but you're going to do things online. What's going to be online and what is the bit that's going to be in class? So if you do practicals, you could video the practicals so students are ready when they come in class to start the activities, and that can get them started straight away. Or you could put the theory online and then reinforce it in the classroom, you know? So it's deciding which is the best bit that you need, and how do you provide your feedback. With the feedback can be audio, can be video, can be text. How does the student go? Where does the student go when they've got a question, when they're online and they think, I don't know what I'm doing? Are they asking you, or are they asking the other people in the group? Peer-to-peer learning is quite prominent in MOOCs. We went to, this was last year, wasn't it, to a MOOC conference. There was Edinburgh University had put a course up on a MOOC, and they had about 35,000 students look at it, join it. Out of the 33, 23 carried on and looked at extra bits, and 9,000 completed it. Now that 9,000, one of the first things they had on one of the forums was, what the first thing that was posted up on the forum by a student was, when's the professor going to join? So in some ways, in a learning environment, and our students especially still expect a teacher, you know? So when are you going to provide that support, and how are you going to provide that support? Is that part of your curriculum design to say, okay, it's going to be blended, I'm going to have 20 hours online, I'm going to have 10 hours of workshops, but every Friday morning, I need on my timetable 10 till 11, I will be available for questions. And then you are at that computer at that point. The other thing that we've investigated is live chat. I don't know how people like it, but you know when you're online and you're doing something and then you think, oh, I need to ask somebody a question, and in the corner sometimes it's going, chat live, and you think, yeah, okay, whatever. But if you click on that, I have done it, and you click on it, and it's a chat completely with somebody at the other end, especially when you're trying to buy something and you can't find what you're looking for, and they help you, like you get your little personal shopper. You know, that actually helps because it saves you doing all the searching. If you're going to offer that facility, chat live, when are you going to make it available? And if you're saying, I'm here to chat with you, is someone going to be there to chat with them? Is it the admin in the area that could be online because they're sitting at the computer and they can say, I'll get someone to get back to you? And we've tried the chat on Google and it works. So we know how to do it, we know how to embed it. Do you want it part of your learning materials? So, the MOOCs that we've looked at,
a digital future for further education. Reacting to...
Now you know what I'll tag me. The MOOCs, they're basically, there's three that we've looked at, and these are probably the better platforms. The reason I put the Future Learn one is, the Future Learn one is the MOOC for the UK. It's controlled by the Open University, and it's all universities. Well, actually, I don't think there's a college that's done a MOOC, so we could be very innovative and be the first college to ever develop a MOOC, but I'll leave that up to you guys as the experts in the curriculum areas. But that's the UK one, so if you want to do one, we could contact Future Learn and say, we've got a MOOC, we want to put it together, will you support us, and do it. Coursera is the American one, but it's the oldest one, and it's actually got some really good courses on there. And Canvas have got is a learning management system we're looking at the moment, and they've got their own MOOC as well, and they are UK and America, so they've got a combination of different courses. What the other thing that you need to think about, though, you know, when you're actually preparing materials, these people, and these aren't the only ones, I mean, there's Udacity and WebCT and stuff as well, have already created these materials. And actually, if you look at some of the courses, they're all free, although someone's on the Future Learner now saying, to get a certificate, you must pay us. But we can speak to Future Learner because they're in the UK and they're open university, and we do work with them. They're all free, but if you're doing your curriculum design at the beginning of the year, if you look at these courses, there might already be one there that's about 4 or 5 weeks long. And if you say, well, okay, I'm going to teach my students that, but then I'm going to say to them all, everybody go and enroll on that course, and I want you all to do it, and I want you to participate on it. And as a teacher, if you join it as well, you'll see the discussions that are going on in these courses, and that could be part of your curriculum design. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can actually get your students, it could be just to reinforce learning. You could be saying, actually, do you know what, I'm going to teach you systems life cycle, but there's actually a course on Coursera that's running on these days. I want you all as a group to log on and follow, do that as well, but it's reinforcing what I'm telling you in class. So, you know, it's not always recreating it yourself. But what we've done is we've set up an account, and it's jblogs, because we're so original, i.ocvc, and password is learning99. So what I want you to do is get yourself into 3 groups. So a group over there, a group in the middle, and a group here. The first group look at Future Learn, the second group look at Coursera, and the third group look at Canvas. That'll be the username and the password. But when you go to look at this, I want you to look at the catalogues of the courses that they've got. But don't look at the content as much. I want you to look at, how do they start the course? What functionality do they use? How do they get you to navigate through the material? Are they using video? Are they using handouts? How are they testing your knowledge and understanding? Is there quizzes there? Is there an assessment? And actually, where is there support for communication? Because once you've looked at those, it might give you an idea of how you're going to lay out your courses. Because if you're going to do it, how is it already being done? We don't have to start from scratch. Let's see what's being done, what's worked, how it works. And then what we'll do is we'll come back together, and we're going to actually put a unit or discuss a unit that you guys are ready to put online after having a look at that. So does everybody know what they've got to do? We'll have a group there, a group in the middle, and a group over here. Log on, that's the username and that's the password for all 3 environments. Look at the functionality of those MOOCs. Okay, and actually there might be some courses there that you like.